Welcome back, Helldivers. The new Warbond is here. I've gone through it all, unlocked the weapons, taken the weapons through a Helldive mission, or multiple Helldive missions, on both the bugs and the bots. Also unlocked the grenade, and here are my thoughts of what I think is worth it and what I think is not worth it. Starting with the Tenderizer, this is basically a worse version of the Liberator. It has less bullets, worse fire rate, and it's got slightly better recoil, but does exactly the same damage. It doesn't have medium armor penetration. It feels okay against the bugs, but it's not going to compete with the Breaker Incendiary. The fire damage right now is insanely good, and they have fixed it so it works now when you play with other people, not just the host. It's just nowhere close to being as good as that weapon is. And if you want something similar, like you want to kind of use like an assault rifle, you're better off just going with the sickle, have infinite ammo as long as you get your reloads correct. And against the bots, it has no chance really of competing with the Jar Dominator, the Scorcher, the Plasma Shotgun, or even the new Plasma weapon, because they all either stagger or do something odd to take out certain enemies. So for example, Scorcher doesn't stagger, but you can take out Striders very easily. Jar has huge damage, huge stagger, probably most people's top pick for against the bots. I really like the Plasma Shotgun too. Big stagger, big AoE, pretty well performing. This is it's not a weapon you would use against the bots, and it's pretty average against the bugs, so chuck it in the trash can. The next one is this submachine gun, the Pummeler. It is, of course, one-handed. It has light armor penetration, but it has concussive rounds, which is similar to the Liberator concussive. And it actually outperforms the Liberator concussive in every possible way, and this gun is actually good. The concussive effect really locks down enemies, and of course you can like shoot behind yourself while you're running away. Gives you lots of breathing room, allows you to then set up your nades or stratagems. It seems to absolutely destroy stalkers. It works pretty well on berserkers too. Now, way back when they released Helldivers, I actually tested the Liberator concussive, because originally it wasn't called that. It actually had the explosive trait on it. And I was trying to work out if that explosive trait was correct, because the CEO tweeted that explosive trait does like 100% damage to squishy parts. And it ended up not being correct, because it actually wasn't really an explosive trait. And when I did the testing, the concussive actually added like 30% damage to the squishy parts of bugs. I think something like that is still happening with this, because it seems to destroy berserkers when you shoot them in their weak spot, and I'm assuming the joints of bugs, which is why they go down so quick. It fits into a really nice combo with the bots. I like to run the ballistic shield, the Pummeler as your primary, and then you can have an AMR for long range, so you can take out all those rocket guys from range. The Devastators with rockets are just so annoying. Take them out with the AMR, and run this as your primary with a ballistic shield. Really nice combo. For the bugs, I probably would put this with a supply backpack, and then you just don't have to worry about just going full auto, and is actually really good and really fun. So definitely would recommend the Pummeler. Okay, the new energy-based weapon, the PLAS-101 Purifier. This is basically a Scorcher in every which way, except it does a little bit more damage, and it staggers. So it's basically a Scorcher that staggers, and the trade-off is you have to charge it up. At first, I completely hated it, but once I started using it a little bit differently, like peek shooting with it, like charge behind the wall, pop out, then release the trigger to target enemies, it felt a lot better. I think most people will still prefer the Scorcher or the Jar Dominator. The Jar does nearly everything this can do without having to charge. The only area that this actually performs better than the Jar is taking down Striders. The Jar can still take down Striders. You shoot the top of their leg, and you know, it's just not as consistent as this. This is like a 2-shot to Striders, and that's its advantage, its main advantage over the Jar. I think people will still select the Scorcher and the Jar over this, because they also have easy follow-up shots on tanks and heavies, especially with how Quasar is right now. Quasar has a really long cooldown, so what I often do is take a single shot and then switch to your Dominator or the Scorcher and finish off the tank or the Hulk or whatever by shooting the weak spot with it. This obviously struggles to do follow-up shots because it's got a charge, so it doesn't do so well there either. With all that said, I think this will find a niche home in the community. I think people will poo-poo it at first, and it will slowly climb the ranks, and people will come to really enjoy it. I think once you get used to how to use it, I think it's quite a fun gun, actually. So yeah, I'm going to put this in the recommended slot as well. Okay, moving on to the secondary, the pistol, the P113 Verdict. I'm not too sure what this is kind of meant to do, what role this is meant to fill. And if you've been using this and you have an effective strategy for it, let me know. But it's kind of like the baby brother of the Senator, but it doesn't have medium armor penetration. And so I can't see a reason to use this over something like the Redeemer. I would run it with a ballistic shield and use it on bots. It didn't feel any more effective. I think a 2-shot most medium enemies in the weak spot. The Redeemer, I'm pretty sure 2 shots as well. It's either 2 or 3. So I didn't feel like I was gaining a huge advantage by using the Verdict over something like the Redeemer. And the downside of using it is only having 10 bullets. And when I run the Redeemer, I can shoot all the small light enemies with it. Whereas the Verdict, you have to kind of prioritize the medium enemies. So yeah, I can't really find a home for the Verdict, and that's a no from me. And the last thing to unlock with your new Warbond is the Incendiary Impact Nade. This thing is god tier. Anything with fire right now is doing incredibly well. This is probably worth the pass. Similar to how stun grenades were probably worth it as well. I think this is probably the top thing in the whole battle pass. Up there with, I would probably also say the SMG. I think the Pummeler and the grenade are pretty much worth it. They're incredibly good. This nade just absolutely melts bugs. Definitely better on the bugs than the bots, just because of how the bugs kind of swarm together and just roll through an area, and you can really just funnel them through the fire, and it works incredibly well. It does work on bots as well. But yeah, definitely a pick for the bugs. I prefer the stun grenade for bots, so I can stun hulks and shoot them in the face. And then I prefer the this is probably my go-to impact nade now. It blows up factories, it blows up bug holes too. It's a good choice. And that's all I got for you. That's my thoughts on the new weapons that came with the Polar Patriots Premium Warbond. If you'd like to support the channel and cannot think of a comment, you can leave the word Pummeler. Yeah, I think the SMG is going to make a lot of people happy. As usual, it's been a pleasure. This is Myelin Games. Peace.